Hey folks, it's Lindsey Hollison with SPS back in the building for another SPS Winning Wednesdays, and I'm here with a winner, no doubt, champion indeed, representing championship team, championship district, and my good friend from some time ago, Miss Anika McEvans. How are you, dear?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm glad I was able to get you. I think that having a conversation with you would be a great thing. And let me say, you got some Renaissance riders out there. Your folks was just showing nothing but love. So everybody was like, "Oh, Anika." I'm like, "That's awesome." Now, what you got to say about that?
Well, you know that Phoenix love. We had to stick together during high school, and I'm very proud of our alumni group. Real strong alumni group, doing a lot of big things. So I appreciate all the support.
Yeah, as a proud Henry Ford graduate, I had nothing but love for Renaissance. And I'll say it here on my podcast. If I had to choose between the two schools, Cass and Renaissance, I was going to be all about Renaissance for some good reasons. But I always enjoy hanging out with your folks.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. We show everybody love. We even show Cass love, on Monday and Thursday. Game day on Friday might be another
I get it. And I got nothing but love for Cass, too. That's good. It's like whenever you go out of town and go away to school, everybody think that the only high school in Detroit was maybe Cass or Renaissance. Did you got a Cass? And we're like, no, it's a whole lot of schools.
A whole lot of great schools. All about finding the right fit.
Right. And right now you're representing for one of those great schools.
I am.
State champions.
Our Hurricanes over at Frederick Douglass.
Doing a great job. Shout out to Pierre and PBJ Jr. That is those guys doing great.
So happy for them. As a family, I can only imagine how great the feeling of this year has been for them. So really proud of them.
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's start with talking about one thing. And to those who are checking in, we're here and we'll welcome your question and your comments and all that. I got my guy Thomas Cage here. TK, what do you say? People were scared of Denny and King. Okay. What is he talking about?
Never scared. Respect. Never scared.
TK is trying to get something popping already. TK is number one for you, bro.
I'm just not here.
Hey, you see how it's going to be. But we welcome those. But let's start with your day job and the great organization you are representing for, Detroit Public Schools Community District. Our roots go back there. We all have great ties going back. I found some archives of you two getting down, representing way back then. I'm just saying. Maybe I'll bring that up next time with some of your classmates. Come on. But talk about your current role. And he was talking about Denby. We know he's talking about Denby and King. What you mean, Denby and King? Thomas, don't worry. I'm going to deal with you later, Thomas, on that. Talk about your current role with the Detroit Public Schools Community District, your official capacity, what you do, and what that means for the people you're serving.
Yeah. So first off, I just want to say I'm really happy to be home. I knew my career eventually I wanted to come back home and, work with young people in the city of Detroit and try to give them some of the same opportunities I had, being a Detroit Public School alum all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. Right now, I'm a program supervisor in the Office of Athletics. And basically what that means is I oversee sports, K-12. One of my main sports right now is basketball, but I'm also responsible for volleyball, swimming, and then also assisting, with some of our other sports as well. From the Office of Athletics, basically we run the league, right? We do all the scheduling. We, handle all the budgeting.
Shout out to Jay Alexander over there.
Yeah, awesome boss. We've got an awesome team in the Office of Athletics. We're four mighty, right? 4 strong for a district as large as ours. So we work hard, but we've got an awesome team of coaches and administrators, underneath us doing all the heavy lifting. So makes my job easier.
That's great. And I remember coming down on cover. I want to say it was the Cass Woodhaven game football is. And I would see all you guys over there, keeping things organized. And it kind of segues into really the first question I have for you. That is being in a leadership role during this time of COVID. I mean, nobody expected that the last year or so would be taken from us and just frozen in time. But when we did get the opportunity to get back to sports, I was fortunate to show up with my mask on and be there at Cass for one of the games. But you guys were on it. So what was it like? First of all, tell me what it was like when you got the news, not only as an administrator, but as a parent, and then being able to finally work on putting together a plan to bring some type of championship caliber sports to the district and transition out through a year.
Yeah, so obviously for a lot of people, right, the COVID pandemic was crazy, hectic, a lot of changes happening at once. We were fortunate in Detroit to have the leadership of, Dr. Vitti, who was adamant, that we needed to continue sports for our young people. As a former athlete, coach, administrator, and like you said, parent, I just know how important having those anchoring activities in young people's lives is. And while school, of course, is a top priority, kids are much more than that, right? We as people are much more than that. So first, getting the news, having to advocate so hard to make sure that we actually were going to have a season. We knew that if we had a season, we had to be on top of our game. As far as the COVID protocols, keeping all of our athletes, all of our spectators safe. And we also knew that being Detroit, we were going to have an extra lens on, how we operate and how we do things, right? So if we get it wrong, it's magnified 10 times. If we get it right, only our people recognize it sometimes. So
or that's what you were supposed to do, so no recognition needed.
Yeah. So we just knew that we had to get it right for all of those reasons. And I'm so thankful for, again, our coaching staff, our administrators at our schools. They just really rallied behind it and knew that we needed to all come together to make this happen for our young people. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of our spectators and parents, right? It's hard being a parent, the thought of not being able to support your, children, or being a family member of the village and not being able to support live and in person. Our spectators were awesome, following all the COVID protocols, doing everything that was necessary, distancing, wearing their masks, everything else. So we all came together and pulled off a year, which actually wraps up in a couple weeks. So very glad for that. Even more excited that it looks like we've turned the corner with, the pandemic, and that next school year we'll be back to a different level of normalcy. So.
Right. And let me just compliment you guys. I was there. I was there, and I guess I can wear a hat as a spectator because in my role, not only as a sports psychology consultant, but as a member of the media, I was there. And I got to admit, I was so driven by the idea of getting out the house and kind of using my credentials to be able to kind of get somewhere, right?
Right.
But when I got there, I had to realize, whoa, I'm out here. And I have to admit, I'm being totally honest, you guys had it together. Things were in order. And I think that added to a level of decreasing potential anxiety. Things were orderly in line, and you was giving people that look like, hey, if you don't got it together, you can get up out of here. I was like, oh, no problems are hurt. But then even to come in there and the spacing was done, you saw the X's, where people should be seated at. So it wasn't hard, and you still were able to enjoy quality sports. So hats off to you guys for what you did. It was great.
Thank you.
So with that, you know what it is to deal with big time issues. But I want to ask you a question that is an unfair question. One can almost say somewhat inappropriate in today's time. But how does it feel being in the athletic leadership role in a quote unquote man's world? We just saw Nina King get this unprecedented, appointment to becoming the athletic director for Duke. I am a Duke fan. I used to get in trouble, at the Michigan State games, being a Duke fan or whatever. And she got swag. She's a woman of color. She got her Anika McEvans strut going on right now.
Yes.
Everything. But the reason why I say that it's a controversial question, if you will, is that men aren't normally asked that question. They don't ask a male in athletic leadership, how does it feel being a man in a man's world? It's just like not even like that. And then the other part too, and I'll put it out there, I'm going to ask about, your family, being a sports mom and all that. But they normally wouldn't ask a man that. They'll probably say, how do you manage your work-life balance? If they even pose that question at all.
If at all.
So, with all those caveats, with all those qualifiers, so you won't run up on me when you see me like, what you ask me questions like that for? Just for those who are listening and really to be inspired by all the great things women are doing in sport right now, how do you respond to that when you hear that question?
Well, first of all, it's not really an unfair question to me because, quite frankly, women in all forms of leadership are asked that question, right? There's very few realms in our society where women leaders, unfortunately, are commonplace, right? We're still the anomaly in so many leadership positions, and it's really unfortunate because I think that women and men, biologically, psychologically, mentally, everything else are just different, right? We're just different creatures and we're different people. And so we all view the world from the lens of, our experience and, our knowledge. And so having both men and women at the table to me is so critical, especially when you serve a population of both boys and girls, right? I don't serve just male student athletes, right? Neither does Jay Alexander, my boss. He doesn't have the luxury of just serving boys student athletes. So to have both the male and female perspective, I think is critical to us, moving forward and being successful. And then, of course, just to pat myself as well as all of the other, women leaders on the back, we work hard, right? Because we not only have to be qualified, but we have to continually, prove ourselves. And
Nikki,
so,
you put some bass in your voice when you said that. You said we work hard.
because we have to always be ready, right? We can't afford to have a day off. And it's unfortunate, but we can't, because our opportunities are less. And so if you have a day off, that might be the one day you had to be spot on. And I think athletes in general understand that, right? Some games you just have to show up, or it can make or break your career. And it's the same thing for women in leadership. We have to show up every day. And so we work hard to do that.
So in that role, when you talk about, and I can appreciate your transparency and your passion, and I'm inspired just by hearing that. And just to take a step back, we call this Winning Wednesdays because I feel that there are a lot of great people. And when I have the opportunity to come in contact with people, I just try to provide something that one person can listen and get something from that. And they can be like, So with that being said, you said so much now, if we cut off a lost transmission, there will be some benefit out there. But to stay on that note, when you talk about you being on your game, and you did allude to, representing for others, what is it like trying to mold and get other young women, or just women, period, and then you start talking about women of color, to be able to still follow through? It's almost like everybody's carrying their individual struggle, and it's like, if a female in a leadership role, using Nina King for an example, if something goes awry with her, not only do I cringe because it's a woman of color, but you may cringe, a double extra cringe, because of your connection. So talk about, the potential extra burden that may be there based on you being in the role that you're in and ascending where you're going, and trying to bring someone else along, whether it's in your organization or somewhere else, those extra burdens that are carried sometimes.
Yeah. So I think the best way to alleviate that burden is just example, right? So I think the more women we place in leadership positions, the more young women will see those positions as an actual reality, right? Or something that they can strive towards. So I think that's the first thing, is that decision makers and leaders of both men and women, young women, older men, we have to make a conscious effort to make sure that our leadership reflects, the people that we serve, right? And that's in any capacity. That's whether it's sports or business, the deacon board at your church, wherever it is, leadership, we have to make a conscious effort to reflect the diversity of our communities. And of course, that's not just men and women, that's, women of color, that's, men of color, that's, different faiths, right? It's not always easy to do that, but we have to do it. And as leaders, that's a burden that we have to pick up and do a better job of doing. And so when I see young women, especially, I constantly talk to them about my job. I constantly talk to them about, how I got here. And I really try to be very transparent about all the things that I went up against, because there are some critical decisions that, women have to make if they're going to continue in a male-dominated arena. There's just relationships. Every decision you make can impact your career. And when you're a woman, you just have to carry that, with you with everything that you do. So first thing is just an example. And then also just making conscious decisions to put, women in leadership positions. Right now, one of those decisions, right, as we hire new coaches, we don't directly hire new coaches in the Office of Athletics. Our principals do most of the hiring, but I take it upon myself to constantly seek out qualified women that can at least be interviewed and considered 4 head coaching positions because, you know, our coaches in our buildings are mostly men. And there is a difference, you know, coaching young ladies. And that's not to say that men can't coach, you know, young women effectively. I had awesome, you know, male coaches, but there's also something great about being part of, you know, as a young woman, being part of a staff that's led by a woman. There's something great in that, and there's something special in that. And we need more women coaches. So that's one of the things that I try to do every day, and, you know, keep promoting that.
Excellent, excellent. We're going to take a quick break in a second, but before I do want to give you a heads up of what I wanted to transition to when we come back. You touched on, you know, the importance of, you know, women in those roles. And from a personal standpoint, when we talk about family, I want to get into that part talking about family. I also want to get your insight as what I can do as a man, not only with the struggle I have as a Black man in America, which is a struggle within itself, but what I can do as a man to be more supportive of what women are going through. And I'm really asking for a personal reason because I have a 9-year-old daughter. So I want to take a quick commercial break. Cut out to our sponsors, Team Michigan. We're going to come back and talk about that, okay?
All right, I'll be ready.
All right.
Breaking news. Team Michigan Basketball is presenting a series of basketball tournaments at Grand Traverse Resort and Spa. Get your teams registered today. The first tournament in this series is coming this Halloween weekend. Visit basketball.com or teammichiganbasketball.com for more information.
Yep. Shout out to Basketball. What's going on? Looking forward to getting up north. And I not only playing some basketball with the young people, I won't be playing, but also playing some golf. You know, I'm coming off this Achilles. Also want to shout, yes, the Horatio Williams Foundation for Horatio and all his support, Dick's Sporting Goods, as well as Gilead Sciences. Because of them, we're able to bring these great programming opportunities to you. But yeah, on a personal note, this is when I need to get some insight. And Anika, you got to help me out. I'm going to have to put you on speed dial. I got a 9-year-old daughter, and in my daily struggle, you know, to you know, increase my brand and the impact that I'm having and just live my life, you know, it's so easy to overlook what other people are going through. For example, I got a whole different appreciation for the American Disabilities Act because I got my little scooter right here, and I'll be looking forward to ingress. Like, hey, where can I, you know, roll up real easy, you know, and all that. So what can I do as a man on the move to not only continue to stay on my grind and accomplish the goals I have, but to make a better way, not necessarily easier, because I think that's a light term to use, but create better opportunities for other young women, particularly young women of color who may be falling behind me.
Right. Well, first I'll say, you know, as parents, right, our primary role is, you know, for me was being the momager, right? Meaning managing, meaning managing my children's, you know, life experiences, right? And so for men with daughters, understand that that's Team No Tuition. There we go.
Team No Tuition. I like that.
But you know, for men with daughters, you are their first coach, right? Young women who have active male role models in their life are more likely to participate in sports. Okay, that's just a fact, right? I don't have my statistics ready. You know, next time we talk, I will. But that's a fact. Okay. So the first place I would say is just to, you know, get your daughter involved, right? And in as many activities as possible, right? I'm not saying she's going to be a superstar. I'm not saying she's going to go Division I in any of those activities or sports, but I tell all men, get your children involved, get your daughters involved, and get them involved early. If girls are not involved in sport by age 12, they might never get involved in sport or physical activity. So get them involved early. So that would be the first thing I would say, just as, you know, a parent. As a member of the media, right? Again, like I talked about, that conscious effort that we have to make, a conscious effort to give coverage to young ladies that are doing great in sport, you know, whether it be activity or coaches or, you know, people that are working, but a conscious effort, not an accidental effort, not, you know, I just happened to cover this really good team, but actually a conscious effort. It's a sad state. The boys' sports will be covered even by accident by somebody in the media, right? You can't help but stumble on great stories of young men doing things in the media. And that's not to say it's not work, but the women's sports can be very easily overlooked if we're not making a conscious effort to cover them. I'll digress just a little bit. We talk about WNBA versus NBA, right? And people say, well, people don't support the WNBA. People don't watch the WNBA. Well, if we put the money and marketing and support behind the WNBA, as we saw this last year due to COVID and our limited viewing and opportunities and everything else, their stock rose tremendously this year because people were exposed to them. So that same thing trickles into our world of, high school athletics, college athletics. And then, finally, as a man on the rise who's going to do even bigger things and greater things, again, I would just say, when you're in a position to start hiring your team, right, make a conscious effort to make sure that your team reflects, the group that you serve, your audience. There are qualified women out here. So I'm not talking about hiring people that are not qualified or are not ready. I'm saying make it a conscious effort to seek out those that are qualified. And then when you find them that are qualified, I'm going to throw this out there too. Make sure you're paying them the same thing that you pay your male counterparts.
Ooh, well, I definitely don't want to get caught slipping on that. I don't need you to run up on me on that. Like, what's up here? And I told you that if one person's impacted, mission accomplished, because I was impacted by those things you said. I am making some plans for what my future is going to be, the things I'm going to focus on, and the statement you made about being conscious in the coverage and support of women and their sports has already helped me lay out some future plans right there. So I'll pull your coattail as that develops to let you know what that was. So that was impactful. Secondly, I'm okay with it, and I guess I'm waiting till my daughter gets of age. She won't remember, but it's something I kind of struggle with, but I felt I was doing the right thing, and I'm asking for a cosign. I'm not even kidding. She was at a one-day basketball clinic, and this was, a few years ago. She's 9, so she was about, 6 or 7, right? And Daddy loves basketball, and we're there. I'm right there courtside. They lowered the rims down and all that. So there's a little scramble for the ball, right, Anika? And the ball rolls over to me. It rolls over to my feet, like Daddy has the ball. So she comes running over, and my baby's looking at me. She was like, Daddy, give me the ball. She was like, I got this. Like, my daddy got the ball. I know I'm good. And I was torn. And to be honest, I wasn't really torn because the hooper in me, the coach in me, I was like, I can't give her the ball. I can't just let her say, oh, Daddy got you. I got to be like, you got to be able to get it. So I took the ball that came at me, and my daughter was running at me, and I know she didn't understand, but I threw the ball off to the side, like, get it. And I wrestled with that, and I hope she didn't look at me like I was crazy, like, you supposed to be my guy. But I felt I was helping her with the idea, like, I'm going to always be here for you. I'm going to pick you up when you fall. But I'm not going to add to you not getting the skills you need or have the right mindset. So she probably won't remember that, but that's probably the one little thing as a dad, I felt I was doing the right thing, but it was hard for me to do it.
Right. Yeah. So you know what? It's funny that you brought up a story like that. I have a similar story like that with my daughter when she was 6. So my son and my daughter both were in this league in the Y, out in Livonia, just a little fun pickup, 4-on-4. I don't think my kids have ever done anything just fun though. Like they're so competitive, right?
Right.
And I was coaching. I got suckered into coaching her. And, we gave her some specific instructions about playing defense a certain way. And, she's grown up in an athletic household. So she's like locked in, right?
Right.
And the other young lady that she was checking was just running around the court and playing and talking to her family. And my daughter's playing defense from one end to the other, right? Because she's doing what she was told to do. And my daughter just got frustrated in the middle of the court and just like yelled at me and it's like, I'm trying to play defense, but she's not doing, And when she yelled at me, the mom in me wanted to like grab her up, like, oh my God, you just embarrassed me. You yelled at me, The coach in me is saying, like, yep, we did tell you to play defense, but I wanted to manage, that. But it was at that moment that I made a decision not to coach my own children, right? And that was the last league that I ever coached any of my children in, because I realized I needed to be able to be their mom, even though I'm a coach, even though, all those things. And so I stepped back and their dad and I made a decision from that point forward Their dad did coach my son a little bit longer, but I think that's you know, but I made a decision that I wanted to be able to be their mom, meaning I had to find other people to impart some of those coaching lessons that you spoke of, so that I could be the picker upper all the time, be the support all the time, you know, love on them, be their obnoxious cheerleader and everything else. And so I think it takes a really special individual to coach their children, right? And all of us don't have that in us. And I also think it takes a special child to be coached by their parents. So I just caution all, you know, parent coaches, be really careful when you're coaching your own children, because they need you to be their parents first. And then I took it very seriously from that point forward to find great coaches for them to be coached by, men and women that I trusted, men and women that I respected on and off the court. And then I had to let them go, you know, and I had to just be their mom. And of course, as the momager, there were some situations that we decided didn't work for our children. Not that they were bad people or bad programs along the way, but as we got further in our process, we got better at putting our children in places to be successful with people that we trusted, so that I didn't have to do all that teaching.
Wow.
So I would just tell you, right, you know, as a mom, I mean, to a dad, take those moments to be her dad, right? And just encourage and love on her. And, you know, there's no shortage of that she's never going to get too much of that. And then as she chooses her sports or her activities, put her around other people that are going to tell her what you would have told her anyway.
Yeah, that helps out a lot. And I know we're doing this for the sake of viewers, whether they're watching now or they're going to go back and watch later. But this is so personal for me, and I'm taking full advantage of it. And if people are able to glean something from this conversation, so be it. And to stay on that subject a little bit more, Anika, and I really appreciate you sharing that. I do, because I think there's one little trick that we use, and you tell me what you think, is that you start off saying, I'm just staying back. But when it comes to you and be like, hey, we need you. Mm-hmm. And you like, I don't know. But then there's that parental part that says, well, I guess I'm supposed to be here. And it's almost like we start getting drawn into the light. We're like pulled into it. And there's so many ways to overly justify doing it. Well, they needed help. I'm here. Why not? It's more time, so on and so forth. It's like, I just pray to have the strength when an opportunity like that presents itself, because look, we're equipped to do it. It's not like we don't have the credentials to do it, you know? Yep. So I had a good friend on last week, Courtney Alexander. Shout out to Courtney. He had talked about how he pulled away. And I think a lot of us who are totally capable are talking more about pulling away. But just from your perspective, and I do want to get into you being a momager and talk about the whole athletic recruiting process and the success that's been going on with your family. But easier said than done. You had that moment. But you had every reason, based on your credentials and background, to still kind of be in that role. How were you able to fight that? I mean, I know you said it was that one moment when she said that, but I mean, come on, what superpowers you have that help you with that?
Well, you know what? I mean, I'm not going to say it was easy, right? But none of this parenting thing is easy, first of all. Let's just say that, right? And it doesn't get any easier when they get to be 20 and 19 and 15, trust and believe. So
your 50-year-old, she's had a birthday, right?
She did. Just had a birthday, Sierra. But it's never easy. And I don't say that to say that there's never been moments where I haven't stepped in, you know, to help here and there along the way. I will say this, I was their number one, well, maybe sometimes number 2 rebounder for my children who are basketball players. Yep. So, you know, we were
with them shooting in the gym.
Thanks, right? We were in the gym working. Okay, right. You know, so you want to go to the gym and shoot? No problem. I'm right there, you know, running around rebounding for you. You want to, you want to go to the gym, go to the field and, you know, throw some balls, catch some balls. Their dad was right there, you know, on the football field with them, you know, doing that. So that's not to say that we weren't there and we weren't supportive. And there were a few moments, if you look through the clips of my children's career, where we had to sit on the bench and help out, but because the coach couldn't be there or something like that. But those times were few and far between. And just like I make a conscious effort to hire individuals that, you know, I had to make a conscious effort to continue to pull myself away and not get sucked in and find other ways to support, right? Fundraising. I was a big fundraiser with my kids' programs, you know, so, you know, helping out in that way.
You took the job nobody wanted.
Nope, nobody wanted it, right? My son, just a prime example, Henry Ford College this year, the thought of not being in the gym for any of my children playing this year was devastating to me. So I offered to do the scorebook because the person that was doing the book for them couldn't due to COVID. And I did the scorebook. My youngest daughter can do basketball scorebook because we did the score for so many games. So I was still present and I was still involved. I just didn't want to be their coach because I wanted to be able to be their mom. And so I just chose other ways to be involved and be active. And then, like I said, we put in work. It just wasn't on game day or practice day.
Shout out to our guy, Derek Holyfield, saying great conversation.
Yeah, hey, Derek.
Yeah, for checking out. Yeah, good guy all around. Staying with this subject, this is very intriguing. Towards the latter part of your comments, the one word I was getting to describe what I was hearing from you was humility. And what do I mean by that? Let's not kid ourselves. NBA, pros, NFL, the pros, yeah, that's live. College, yeah. But high school, prep sports, for lack of a better term, it's sexy too. It has an allure. There's a lot that's going on with it. I mean, it's like whatever can happen. You say, hey, Anika, that was in this, Killmonger voice from Black Panther. Hey, Anika. So here's the thing, so many parents will use that situation that you're in as a potential coach to stay there and kind of be in the limelight. You took all the arduous, hard, low-key, out the way, who wants this job type roles. I mean, why? You didn't have to do that. Now, I know a lot of it was strategic at certain times, but you just started naming all the roles that people get stuck with, but you took those just to still be involved.
Because as an administrator, I know how important they are, right? It's just like, with your engine, your car, right? The exterior is the sexy part of the car, but the engine is what keeps the car on the road. And so
gotta get that oil change.
Somebody's got to be the engine, and I've tried to take that role as an administrator as well. People that have worked with me all the way over my career will tell you, I don't want to be the one giving out the trophies. I don't want to be the one accepting the trophies. I don't even want to be the one doing the speeches because my coaches and my athletes work too hard. If I'm doing my job correctly, people won't even know I'm there, right? If I'm doing my job and the engine of the event is running well, if my children are succeeding and the organization is running well, I should just be background noise. And that's the attitude that I've taken. And as a parent, supporting my children, I just know that, again, somebody's got to be willing to be the engine, of the organization and be in the background. And for me, it worked out with, again, my belief and desire to just be their mom.
I get it. But you know what? You got to give me a little bit more because I know you smooth. I know you low key. But before that moment when she was yelling, I'm just trying to play defense, there had to be some part of you. Is it part of your astrological sign? Is it, the side of the street that you grew up on? What is it? Because I still keep hearing something that's different from so many others. Are these fair questions that I'm posing to you?
Yeah, no, it's fine. It wasn't always easy. I mean, I have an ego like anybody else. And like you said, that sports are, is sexy, right? And and this is one place where being a woman in a room full of men, right, helps out, right? You stick out. Like,
yeah.
She knows what she's talking about. But it really was just simply that of, I just did not want to be the focus. Right. I wasn't trying to live through my children. Right. I was trying to give them, not just them. Let me back up. I believe and I want every child that I come in contact with to have a great experience athletically. And I say athletically because that's the world that I live in and I operate in. Obviously, it's bigger than that. But I literally and I truly want every child that I come in contact with to have an amazing experience. And I make decisions even now for, the students that I serve. What would I want as a parent for my children, right? And my children have been very, very fortunate. They have that both were willing to make the sacrifices necessary to support their dreams. They had coaches from the time they were young until now, even in college, that have loved and supported them, mentored them, coached them when necessary, right? Not saying it's always easy. They have a full village behind them that have loved and supported them. And I believe every child, deserves that. In my experience, though, I know every child doesn't have that. And so I decide
you almost say most of them.
Right? I didn't even have that. I didn't even have growing up what my kids have. But I make a decision every day to be a part of that village for as many young people as possible, you know, and do it as much as possible. And so for me, on the fundraising, it didn't just help my children, right? It helped the child whose parents couldn't pay for them to, you know, travel and be on an AAU circuit like my daughter was and my son was, or, you know, do even middle school basketball and volleyball the way that my youngest daughter did it, right? There were individuals that couldn't pay for uniforms, you know, so I made it a point to be a part of those, you know, young people's village. And so, you know, I really wish more people would take that perspective and understand you don't have to be in the coach's seat, right, to have an impact on young people. You can be an assistant coach, you can be a stat person, you can be an equipment manager, you can be fundraising, you can be in the media, you know, promoting kids, you can be on social media, on your own personal Twitter, right, shouting out young people that are doing great things or speaking up for what's right. We all have to be a part of the village.
I love it. You about to have me go marching in the street. I don't even have nothing to march on, but I'm about to just go out there.
Trust me, we have some stuff we need to march on, or at least come together on to move forward. But I don't think we have enough time in this whole podcast to go through that.
Well, I feel you. No, I'm not patronizing when I say your time here is being great. We'll talk about a few more things. Let's talk about the success that your young people have. Let's talk about team no tuition, no doubt. I mean, that is huge. You know, to be able to say, you know, my babies is good. So the institutions we got to shout out are both Henry Ford College and University of Buffalo. Am I saying that correctly?
University of Buffalo, yes.
Okay, so talk about what you were saying in your baby's ears, or probably just recapping everything you already just told us, to be able to get your children to the point where people say, we want to bring you here to our institution and provide, you know, a free education for you. I mean, talk about, how should I put it directly, the collegiate recruiting process and what that was like.
All I can say, well, number one, I'm just going to say I'm glad I'm on the other side of it for both of my two older young people.
What do you mean when you say on the other side?
Meaning that they're in school, right? Yeah. And we're not being actively recruited and making those decisions, because it is a very difficult, you know, process to, you know, because it still is a gamble at the end of the day that you made the right decision. But, you know, it's very challenging, and it can wear on young people so much, especially in this day of social media where, you know, everybody's tweeting what offers they have and who's talking to them. You know, and, you know, you're the young person who may or may not be getting the offers. And did you get the offers that somebody else got? And, you know, so it can be really challenging for young people mentally. And then as a parent, of course, whenever your children go through something that tough, right, you're right there with them, and you're hurting for them, because you don't want your kids to experience anything, right? As much as you know it's necessary, you don't want them to experience pain or challenge. So
can I just add something for context to that point?
Yeah.
Well, I had experience with USA basketball. I think it was 17 and under. I was in Colorado with the teams and ended up sitting with a young lady. She was a parent, and I want to say her son ended up he was with Duke. He eventually went to Duke last year. So to say he was a top highly recruited guy, everybody else who was in there was highly recruited. I mean, some of these guys may have transferred. Matter of fact, Michael Porter Jr. was there. You know, he's playing with Denver right now. So that's letting you know the caliber of player. But she said something, Anika, that was echoing what you're saying, but I want to be able to repeat this so people can understand, just as you're saying it, this young man, her son is being recruited by Duke. It's a gamble. She said he got hurt. So they stopped hearing from Duke right around his sophomore year. And they were like, whoa. But the one thing she said I will never forget, she said, we've never been here before. Once you get here and you're a highly touted recruit, you look to the left, you look to the right, you're the only one there. So who do you talk to? This is always a first-time experience. Now, using Michael Porter Jr., for example, his whole family were Division I recruits, to the point where the dad ended up being part of the coaching staff at Missouri. I mean, they were totally into it. And even you with your athletic pedigree, you know, Chance with his athletic background and understanding, the reality is still is all new to everybody. So I want to add it as a point of context as you were talking about those things. And you even mentioned the little social media part. I mean, can we expound upon that a little bit more too?
Yeah, so when you say it's new, I think that's part of the challenge with the recruiting process when I talk to other young people and other parents, because it's brand new for every single young person, and it always will be, right? Because as individuals, every child will have their own journey, right? Every family will have their own journey. Even within our household, my son and my daughter had two very different, experiences and two very different journeys. So I think the most important part for me for parents that are beginning their recruiting journey is to get honest with yourselves about what's important to you at the end, right? For your children. And what I mean by that is I had a checklist as the momager of things I wanted for my children in a college experience, right? For me, number one was a high academic institution, right? I wanted them to go to a university or universities where when they were finished, their degrees would mean something. That was important to me. Number two, obviously, athletically, I wanted them to be in a place where they would be athletically, where they would be happy, right? Where they had a good fit, where they felt that they were going to be comfortable. But I also, again, wanted to continue that part of who they were being coached by was very important to me, right? I wanted to send my children to people that I trusted, that I believed in, not what they were telling me, but who they were as people. So that meant I had to do a little bit of work outside of who I was talking to.
They're going to tell you all the good stuff, right? They're going to come in.
They're going to tell you what you want to hear. But when you go on their social media and you look and you see, for me, those virtual messages through, right? That's somebody to me who has a certain set of values around them that I wanted.
Hold on, we had a slight little glitch in the connection when you talked about. Can you repeat? No, it wasn't you. Can you talk about that? What did you say? The virtual piece one more time.
So I was saying the spiritual aspect. So when I looked through,
I totally missed that. I'm glad you repeated it.
When I look through a person's Twitter, right, and they reference, God, or they reference a higher power, or they reference their faith. It doesn't have to be, the glaring part of their social media, but to me, that shows that we have a shared value. And so I look for those things in coaches that my children, would go with. And then especially for my son ended up at Henry Ford College because Coach Shepard, shout out to Coach Shepard, was there at the beginning of Cameron's recruiting process, speaking life into him and talking about what he was and who he was. And even as Cameron entertained other places and other universities, Coach Shepard to continue to be there. And so at the end of Cameron's decision-making process, when it didn't look the way he wanted to look, Coach Shepard was still there. And so that showed a level of consistency and a level of commitment that was important to us, right? And so I had my checklist, and then my children had their checklists, okay? And so when we went into the recruiting process— I
could just picture you hand out checklists. Your checklist.
We did. We sat at the table as a family, and I had a checklist. Their dad had a checklist. They had a checklist, right? But we did that before we started that recruiting journey. It wasn't like along the way. And then along the way, we adjusted the checklist, but we decided what was important to us. And my children had some things that were important to them. And so as we went on the visits, it didn't matter to us how big the school name was, how small the school name was. If they didn't check the boxes, they just didn't check the boxes, Yeah. And for a lot of people, they get caught up on the name and the size of the school. And, is it Division I? Is it junior college? All those things. You have to think about.
They were saying D1 or bust.
And it's hard. It's hard. I don't want to make it seem like it was easy. It's hard. Right? It's hard to tell your son who, from the moment he picked up a basketball, said he wanted to be in the NBA, and he wanted to play for the University of Michigan. It's hard to have a conversation with him about ending up at Henry Ford Junior College, okay? And understanding why that still is the best fit for him. But it checked the boxes. And that's the part that we had to constantly come back to, was checking our boxes and what was most important to us. And I'm just happy that both my children are in places where they were able to see success, where they were able to get tuition paid for, which was team no tuition from the beginning. Right. They're around good people. The ball is going to stop bouncing for everybody. But the people that they were around, the experiences they had, that's going to sustain them for the rest of their life. So we just had to do that.
I want to play devil's advocate. I want to keep you on this subject for a second, and I want to challenge you a little bit more because I know you're very capable with this. You really said it when you said it didn't matter big or small. You really spoke to at least a lack of or little to no intimidation by the process, just based on your familiarity, the strength of your family and whatnot. But let's talk about the parent. or parents, or in this particular case, a singular situation, where someone is intimidated by that.
Yep.
They may not be lettered. They may not be degreed. They have this natural thing that when that coach comes in and they take advantage, particularly of that single mother, if he spray an extra shot of that boost around that Burberry on before, I've heard these stories before he come into the next room.
Absolutely.
And he utilizes all that, and she's not confident, or he's not confident, or they're not confident in creating these checklists and being as thorough as the McEvans family is in that regard. What simplistic statement can you make to them that can be somewhat of a guiding light, a northern light for them to say, okay, even if I don't do all that stuff, this is what I need to focus on?
So again, even if you're not that thorough, right? Key to being successful at this, and I talk to moms especially all the time, especially single women, right? If you're not an athlete and you're not in sports, I understand how intimidating. It was intimidating for us, and I'm in it, right? And their dad, played all the way, in the CFL and college and everything. And it was intimidating for us. But we have to find people that we trust, right? And we have to lean on people that we trust. Now, I say this to say, as women, and this is, because you asked about, and you mentioned single mothers especially, and this is sometimes not easy to hear. Sometimes we put our trust in the wrong people, okay? And what I mean by that is, as women, sometimes we put our trust in people based on their relationship with us, and we're not paying attention to the relationship they have with our children.
Hold on. I can't rewind the tape.
It's okay.
But can you say that again?
Yeah, we sometimes put faith in people on their relationship with us and not their relationship with our children. And I mean that to say, especially when women with men, when we look at coaches, he might be one way with you. Okay. And this is me getting on my soapbox, but that doesn't mean that he's that way with your son. And or daughter, and if you pay attention to how he is with your son or your daughter more, then you'll find the people that you can trust to help you in that decision-making process along the way. I'm gonna give a couple, shouts out, so to speak, right?
Please do.
I was listening to, and I have listened to for several years, George Ward over at King High School.
Shout out to George, yep, G Ward.
When we were playing basketball, and I'm not ashamed to say this because I've said this to George. George scared me as a coach for my son when I was a mom, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this man.
Listen, I just heard him on his podcast with Derek Cole
yesterday talking about.
He said, "Look, I don't got no felonies. I ain't killed nobody."
and I laughed when I heard him say that because it was true, even for me. I'm like, because my son, he was with the Michigan Playmakers, and I knew that eventually, he would get to 17U, and George was the coach. And I'm like, oh,
he coming.
This man is tough and hard. But I watched how he was with those young men, and I watched how they were with him. And I saw that those young men had a love and a respect for him that I didn't see in a lot of other people. So it didn't matter to me. Yelling wasn't the part that bothered me, right? I grew up with some of that. That didn't bother me. But just that level of, high expectation and, demand, how much he demanded of those young men. I was nervous for my baby, because again, I'm being a mom, right? I was nervous. But like I said, I watched how he was with his young men. When my son was 16U, I would go watch the 17U games. And I saw, like I said, his kids, they weren't fearful of him. They weren't intimidated by him. They were constantly respectful of him. Mm-hmm. And that was enough for me. And so as women, well, as parents, not just women, because I don't want to make it like this is just a single mother conversation. But the reality is that so many single moms are making decisions about experiences that they haven't had. And they've got to find people that they trust to help them with that decision-making process. You have to. It's critical.
And Anika, you were so eloquent, and this is not being proud. You were so eloquent in how you said, simply put, they're looking at how they have a relationship with them as an individual compared to them. Let's be honest. They're going to come in and they're going to present in a way that's going to draw them, in. And it can make you think something that is there that's not even there. That's it. I want to take another quick break, and we come back. We'll have some final comments for tonight. It's been a great, great show, and I want to kind of wrap up on a high note with some of your final thoughts, talking about the future and all that. But with that, we'll take another quick break. Shout out to our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
You know who it is, baby. And I'm here to tell you about the new youth basketball tournament in Michigan. Team Michigan Basketball has done the work. It's prime time. They are PTPers, baby. Get ready for a scary good basketball tournament Halloween weekend at the venue of all venues, Baby Grand Traverse Resort. I'm talking about a diaper dandy, baby. I mean awesome with a capital A. A basketball tournament that is designed with the entire family in mind. Escape to a 900-acre northern Michigan resort just outside of Traverse City. Enjoy 54 holes of championship golf, spa, indoor-outdoor tennis, indoor water playground, fitness center, private beach club, 4 restaurants, shopping, and now basketball. I can't wait, baby! It's the stay to play that will make your day! Halloween weekend 2021. Check it out at www.boosketball.com. Register your team soon. This one is going to fill up quickly. A basketball tournament at a resort. That's a slam bam jam, baby!
That's right. We're talking about some basketball. We want to scare you like George Ward scaring you a long time ago getting out there, right? Again, I want to shout out to our sponsors. It's because of individuals like my guy, Horatio Williams, and the Horatio Williams Foundation. We're able to bring you these Winning Wednesdays, as well as Dick's Sporting Goods, and also Gilead Sciences as well. So my last thing to you as we wrap up, I enjoy doing my podcast, but I once heard Shannon Sharp talk about it's not really good to go back and watch them all the time to be critical because you'll burn out. But some of my podcasts, I want to go back and see. And it's not for what I said or what I did. I do this all the time, but to hear my guest again. And I'm telling you right now, Anika, I can't wait to go back and listen to this. This is not for me to critique myself or what it's to hear what you've been sharing. Because I knew, that's when you say, I had a feeling was going to be able to put some things down. And my God, what you said to me as a man and as a father has given me a different direction to go in about some things, but also given me a little bit more faith in my ability to be me and do my thing as I raise my daughter.
Absolutely.
So as we close, what does the future look like for you? What are some things that are important to you? What are some things you can share to our viewers and listeners that can be beneficial? But I just want to give you these last moments to really, share. And it doesn't have to be you answering the questions that I pose, but telling us what we need to hear.
Well, so I'll start with my children, as I often, do. So Cheyenne is going into her, sophomore year at the University of Buffalo. Cameron, this is a critical decision year for him, to see what's going to be next. Does he go back to Henry Ford College and take, that 3rd year option, or does he go somewhere else, with his life? We don't know. Sierra is starting she'll be finishing her freshman year at West Bloomfield, and she's opted not to play sports at all during high school. So, help her find her new direction, which is perfectly fine too. So I'm looking forward to a COVID-free next year, right, as a mom, so I can be sidelined and watch my children play. As an athletic administrator, I'm just really excited. And I'm not saying this because I have to. I'm not saying this, because I want to keep my job. I am excited about the future of Detroit Public Schools Community District as it relates to athletics. The team that we have in the Office of Athletics being led by Jay Alexander, myself, Mikhail Covington, we, drafted Mikhail over from PAL, Erica Braid, of our department. We have some big visions for, Detroit Public Schools Community District, and they all surround about just being excellent, right? I hate when people say I want to get the glory days back, right? Because Detroit Public Schools will never look the way it looked, right, when I was in school, and I don't even know that we wanted to. But I do want to bring back that level of excellence where it was across the board. We've got some work to do as it relates to equity, making sure that all of our schools, all of our programs have the same level of support, the same level of opportunity for our young people. So we've got some work to do with that, and we've started that work. I'm excited to find the next G Ward, right? G not as young as he used to be, right? Ken Flowers over at Ford, not as young as he used to be.
Shout out to Ken.
So we've got a lot of coaches that have been doing this thing for a long time, and we've got to figure out a way to find that next set of leaders to come aboard as coaches while I still have access to, a mind like a G Ward, while I still have, a Ken Flowers, while I still have an Orlando Watkins, while I still have a Tyrone Spencer, on the football side. So I've got to find that next generation of coaches and bring them in so that they can benefit from that leadership and be ready to help, that transition. So we've been doing a lot of work around professional development. And then also, I know you and I talked a little bit before this conversation about this battle between, the AAU and the high school sports and everything else, right? And I think the key to us, I won't say winning the battle because I don't think it's an either or situation, but I think educational athletics, we just have to provide a better product than we've been giving to people, while still recognizing that high school athletics is not just for the elite athlete. High school sports is about all 15 kids on the basketball roster having a great experience. AAU is about elite kids having a great experience. And so we as high school athletics have to figure out a way to provide a balance where we give amazing experiences for our elite athletes, but that we also don't forget that those elite athletes are supported by other young people on those rosters. And how do we provide a good balance, for the two? And sometimes that means that we have internal conversations that aren't always comfortable, right? I have some of my elite programs that want to do some things. And I say, we just can't do that because it doesn't benefit everybody else. So we have to meet. And then some of my programs that aren't quite there yet, they have to understand they've got to raise the bar because we've got to be somewhere in the middle, right? Where we give great experiences for 1 through 15 on a roster. So we've been doing some work around that, and I'm excited about that. And then, I spoke to it earlier, right? I'm excited about bringing along the next, Lindsay Huddleston and the next Anika McEvans, right? Because again, we've been at this thing for a while. I'm not as young as I used to be. And so I need to put, some more, female faces in positions of leadership, both on the court, off the court. And we've got to do that work together. We've got to do that work together in Detroit. And then finally, I'm looking forward to just being a part of this revamp that's going on in Detroit. And I think that sports positions us to be a part of that process, very uniquely. We got the G League, coming. We've got a lot of things going on with the Pistons being back downtown. And that's a unique partnership that we really need to cultivate and move forward.
Wow. Well, to anyone who's listening, there was something for everybody. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship. And I appreciate your counsel. And what you've done now, if you put me in a position, you can be like, what do you want now?
I welcome it. Look, and I'm going to say this too, Lindsay. We need more help, right? We need help, right, to move this thing forward. And I'm speaking specifically, again, of like with Detroit Public Schools. We need a lot of help, to move forward, but it's got to be people whose heart is in the right place. I'm savvy enough and we're savvy enough. Jay is savvy enough. And if we're not, Ironetta Wright, our boss, and Dr. Vitti are savvy enough. If you're just coming because of what you can take from us, those days are over. Those days are over in Detroit. If you're coming to see how you can work with us and we can all move forward and we can all win, then we welcome that help and that support and that participation because we know we need it. But we can't just have a bunch of takers anymore. We all got to be coming to the table, with our hearts in the right places. And that's about young people.
Right.
I tell my coaches all the time, and I love my coaches, I do. But I always ask them when they come to me with complaints or issues, is this an adult problem or a young person problem? Because if this is an adult problem, I may or may not be able to help you. But if this is a young person problem, I'm going to figure out a way to solve it.
Right.
Because that's who's in.
Do they be like, well, I'm good. They're like, I'll work it out.
Sometimes they do. And that's not to say I don't respect my coaches or need my coaches, but I've got to solve problems for young people because that's what's most important in this process.
We got to get off before I start getting emotional and uptight. I'd be screaming like I was in church or something like that.
I stay emotional about this. This is my life. This is my life. This is what I do. This is what we do, right? My family, my children grew up in the gym.
Right. Right. I got it. Well, this has been amazing. I'm grateful for your time. And again, grateful for your friendship and counsel. And I know great things are only going to happen in your wake, wherever you are, whatever you touch. So thanks for coming on and sharing with us.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity and the platform. I really appreciate it.
Yep. You're welcome. This is Anika McEvans here with Lindsay House from SPS on a Winning Wednesday. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. All the best.
All right.